Okay, today is June 6, 2005, and I am Jessica Clark, the Teresa Mack Germans from Russia History Fellow and Coordinator for the Germans from Russia Oral History Project. It is a pleasure to visit with Rupert Kleingartner in Gackle, North Dakota. For the family identity, please state your full name.
Rupert Arthur Kleingartner.
And when and where were you born?
I was born on the farm, mile south and mile west from here, but in September 22nd, 1923.
Okay. Did your mom or your dad ever tell you a story about your birth?
No, I don't. That's something I don't know nothing about.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 5 brothers,
Okay.
and then I have 2 half-brothers and 2 half-sisters.
And where do you fall in the mixture? Are you the oldest? You're the oldest? Okay. What was it like growing up on the prairie?
Dull.
Dull?
My dad believed in nothing but work. We worked from sun up to sundown. That was Sundays you went to church, and that was about the extent of it.
And I imagine being the oldest son,
Yeah.
there was a lot of work.
And we did farm a little bigger than a lot of the people did, so we had more livestock, and so it was work. More work. Cows, a lot of cows, a lot of cows.
Was there anything beautiful about the growing up on the prairie?
I don't think so. Not that I could really recall that I would say was beautiful.
What about unpleasant? What was the most unpleasant part about growing up on the prairie?
Well, work.
Work?
The most unpleasant job that we always had in the summertime, I don't know, you probably got this from other people too. You know, there was no money.
Mm-hmm.
And people made their own, well, you could call it coal, but it wasn't really out of manure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was, oh geez, that was an awful job. Yeah, cutting them. First they put this manure on a big flat place, and then we take probably 10 horses and tie them together and around and around and around until they packed it as hard as coal, you would say. And then we take the spades and we cut blocks, and they'd make big stacks of this. And that's what we used for heating in the house.
That'd have to be pretty smelly.
Oh, more than smell.
I remember cleaning cow manure out of barns, and I would gag over the smell. So.
Yeah, that was one job that was about as bad as anything on the farm. Really.
When you would burn it in the house, did it have an odor in the house?
No, it burned clean.
But just the process of.
But it was a messy thing. It burned quite fast, and then you had a lot of ashes, so you carry it in and carry it out. That's almost kept one person busy in the winter when it was really cold.
What else? Did your family use anything else besides the cow or horse manure and cow manure?
Oh yeah, we had a parlor stove that burned hard coal.
Okay.
You know that we bought, you know.
Okay.
But in the kitchen range, that's about all they used per se.
Okay. What were the winter months like growing up?
Oh, some of them were tough. Some weren't so bad. It all depended on the weather. But as a rule, you had a lot of work. You had to feed all the livestock, clean out the barns, haul in the feed.
How about the summer? What were summer months like?
Well, you had to put up the feed for the cows in the winter, and then do the other farming like seeding and harvesting. And the harvesting was, of course, in the fall of the year.
If you're thinking back to your childhood and you had to put a date on when the year started for your family, when would the year start? Like, for me, if you're thinking about as a student, my year starts when school starts. So when did the year start when does the year start for a farm family?
1st of January.
1st of January.
Pretty well. I mean, well, the hardest work started once the snow melted, then when you started working in the field, and then you still had all the other work that you'd done in the winter, like feeding the cattle and milking the cows and all that, plus the field work.
Okay.
And
What?
that was all done with horses at that time, and then you had to take care of your horses. So you had a lot of extra work. That's when that started after the snow had melted.
Okay. Could after the snow melts, could you take me through like what a typical year would be for harvesting? What you would do, what the process would be? You would start with what would you start with after the snow would melt? What would be the first thing you'd have to do in the fields?
Well, first you prepare your fields, your land. You either plowed it or whatever, and then you seeded it. And of course, then after you have seeded it, then you waited until August, and then when the green got ripe, you had to cut it. After that, you thrashed it.
Okay.
And made hay in between.
Yeah, made hay in between. Right.
Well, how long were your typical days? How many hours would you be out? What time would you get up in the morning to go out and start your chores and start the work?
It's 5:36.
Okay. Now what would
Sun up, and you'd go till dark.
Okay. What would a typical day be for you during your childhood? You'd get up when sun was up, and then you'd go do what?
First thing when we get up is milk the cows. That was always the first thing. Then we'd have breakfast, and after that, whatever there was to do, whether it was plowing or seeding or in the summertime it was haying, and then a lot depended on the weather too.
Mm-hmm.
If it was raining, you'd work in the shop, fix things. Sometimes you'd just sit around probably in the house when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. When you were out working in the fields, would your mom bring you out lunch or dinner, or would you come back to the house and eat? Come back to the house and eat. Then you'd come back in the afternoon, then you'd go back out and work till dinner or till supper, and then come back in for supper and
Then milk the cows.
and then milk the cows again. What was your favorite time of year? What was your favorite season growing up?
Really, the fall of the year after harvest was over with, then you'd have a little more free time.
When work on the farm slowed down a little.
It wasn't quite as rushed. And then another time is in the spring of the year. I always enjoyed spring too,
Okay.
and everything gets nice and green, and the little calves are out, and the little lambs and all that. I mean, I enjoy that. I still do.
On your family's farm, what type of animals did you have?
Oh, we had practically, horses, cows, pigs, sheep,
So everything and anything.
chickens. Well, chickens, and geese and turkeys and ducks.
Do you remember your grandparents at all? Did you know any of your
My
grandparents?
mother's grandparents I remember, but my dad's parents I don't. I mean, they died before I was even born.
Okay. Okay. What were your mother's grandparents like?
Very nice.
Or your mother's parents, sorry.
Yeah, very nice.
Very nice. What was your grandmother's name?
Barbara.
Barbara. And your grandfather?
David.
David.
My mother's side.
Yeah. How would you describe your grandfather?
He was a big, tough man. He, I don't know, really don't know, but whether he come from Germany or from Russia, but when he come here, he homesteaded. Then he left his homestead and he moved into Gackle, and he was a dray man, if you know what a dray man is.
No, I don't.
That's doing everybody else's dirty work, really. Hauling in the coal for the people and hauling out the garbage and bringing the mail from the train to the post office and all that kind of. So he was a big. He wasn't really so tall, but he was a real very stout man.
Okay.
But he was a good natured person.
Did he live in Gackle? He lived in Gackle then,
Yeah,
so your
for a few years, and then he sold his tray line. Then he moved back to his homestead,
Okay.
and he farmed there until he retired.
Okay. What about your grandmother? How would you describe your grandmother?
She was very nice. She was a very gentle, nice person.
Was she a good cook?
Oh yes.
What was one of the favorite things that she would make when you would go to see her?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Anything from dough.
Yeah. Right. Anything from dough.
So true German through and through, huh?
Kuchen, dumplings, strudels, if you know what that is.
Misc,
Yeah, she was a very nice person.
How often would you see your grandparents when you were a
Not too
child?
often. They lived over in Judd, at that time, in the wintertime there was no road, so the only transportation we had was horses. So we didn't see them too often.
How many children did your grandparents have on that side?
Three girls and one boy.
Oh, so a smaller size family then. Okay. Were you close to any of your aunts and uncles on your mom's side?
My uncle, I was quite close, and one of my aunts I was.
And what were their names?
Well, the aunt was Anna Kuhn, and I was quite close to her, and Art was my uncle.
Okay.
He used to come and work for us if we needed extra help.
Oh, okay. What types of things would you do with your aunt?
Nothing special, just visit.
Just visit.
Yeah, she always liked to visit with us.
Okay. On your dad's side, you didn't know your grandparents, but how many kids did they have? Do you know?
I think there were 4 brothers and 4 sisters, if I'm right.
So about 8 kids, maybe. Okay. Were you close to any of your aunts and uncles on that side of the family?
Well, not really close, but my uncle that he bought the farm from, I was about the closest to him.
Okay. And his name was?
Manuel was his name.
Okay. How about cousins? Did you have a lot of cousins when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Were you close to any of them?
None that I could say were really close to me or like to them, because, like I said, we worked from sun up. So we never got to associate with.
Did your aunts and uncles? Most of them remain in this area?
No.
This Gackle area.
My uncle that lived here was the only one. Oh, I had some uncles living in Fredonia, and one uncle, he left in the 30s. He lived not too far from our place, but they went to Washington.
Okay.
To Walla Walla, Washington, I think it was.
Yeah. It's in South Washington.
And then Aunt Lydia.
Oh yeah, one aunt I had that lived not too far from us.
Okay. Did you ever go to help any of your aunts and uncles on their farms, or how about any?
Not too much, no.
Okay.
I helped here, my uncle here once in a great while, but not too much. We always had more than we could do at home.
You lived on a pretty large farm, so did any of your cousins come over to help on your farm? No, just your one uncle every once in a while. Okay. Let's see here. Do you remember any times growing up where you'd have a large family gathering of any sort? No.
Not except funerals. That's about the only.
What was a typical funeral like?
Well, I don't know, just like they are now. I mean,
Is it, okay. Looking towards your parents, what's your father's name?
Balzer,
Okay. And when was your father born?
1901.
1901. And where?
Germany or Russia?
Oh, okay. Can you describe your dad's character? What was your dad like?
Big and tough.
Big and tough.
Where's that picture? Show that picture. Yeah, he was. There was no nonsense, no fooling.
No German man.
Yeah.
Just.
And of course your dad was sick a lot.
Oh yeah, he was sick a lot, but he was 6'3" tall and weighed 240
Oh my goodness.
pounds.
So he was a very big man.
We were, yeah, he was
Were you close with him when you were growing up?
not really.
No. Did he show affection at all? No. The more reserved.
Yeah.
What type of work on the farm would he do? Did he mainly do?
Everything.
Everything.
That, needed to be done, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What about your mom? What's your mom's name?
Olga.
Olga. And when was she born?
1903, I think it was. I think so.
I think we have it actually. Do I have it down
I think
here?
I wrote it on there.
Yeah, I think you do. I'll see what we have here. Olga, 1902. December 1902. So close, 1902. And where was she born at?
I think at Judd.
Okay.
But that I don't know for sure.
Oh yeah, going back to your dad real quick. How old was he when he passed away?
35? No. 55.
Yeah.
55, wasn't he? He died in 56 and he was born in 1901.
So 55. Oh, he's tall.
Yeah, he was 6'3".
It's a good pose when you think of the stern man going. Oh, that's a great picture. Is this in this picture? Is this your barn where you grew up, like on the farm?
I
No.
don't even know where that picture is. In fact, we just got that picture not too long ago from one of my cousins in Minneapolis. They sent it. And I don't know whose barn that is. It wasn't our barn.
And then this one here, is this a family picture?
And this is it.
Is this
This
like
is
a
his
family
dad.
picture?
This is my my grandparents. See.
That's our oldest son.
And his.
Oh, there were 3 sisters and 4 brothers.
Well, he looks like a proud grandpa in this picture.
That was his first grandchild.
Yeah.
First grandchild.
See, this was my grandfather, Kleingartner, and grandmother, and this was my dad here.
Okay.
These 3 were his sisters, and there's only 3 brothers on here, but theirs was. See, one sister didn't come to the United States until in 52. Wasn't it? 51.
Did she stay back in Russia?
Yeah.
Why?
Germany.
Oh, in Germany?
Yeah.
And why was that? Did she?
When they left that time, as far as I know, is she had a boyfriend over there at that time, and she wasn't going to leave, so she stayed behind.
Okay.
She was the oldest one of the family.
Okay.
And then, of course, during World War II, they lost everything, and they were pretty well to do.
Okay.
And the Germans come in and they just took everything. They lost everything. They didn't have nothing. In fact, if my folks wouldn't have sent them, my dad and his brother, that Manuel that lived here, wouldn't have sent them blankets and stuff. They wouldn't, and some clothes. They just had absolutely nothing.
And Arnie too to come over.
Yeah, it was in 51. My uncle and my dad decided they were going to bring their sister and her son and his wife and their 3 children over, and they did.
Really?
They brought them all over here. And,
Did they live in Gackle then when they?
well, for that winter, they come in right after Christmas, in January. Then some of them, my aunt and one of the girls lived here with my uncle, and some lived with my folks, and one of the girls lived with us
In the winter.
in the winter. And they lived there until spring, and then they moved into Gackle, and then he got a job, and they lived in Gackle for, I don't know, 3-4 years, and then my aunt died, or my sister, you know.
Oh, okay.
She was getting close to 90 years old, I think, when she passed away.
Okay.
And after that, the family moved to Jamestown. And
They're still pretty much over in that area.
well, they were the parents of the son and his wife. They both passed away. There's just, and one of the children. There's only the 2 girls left of that family.
3.
Or 3 girls. There were 3 girls and 1 boy that come over.
Okay.
They were my dad and his brother, they were the sponsors, and they were responsible for 1 year after they brought them over to the United States.
Okay.
But they had to be sure that
They
had
could
to support them.
they could restart over here. And, okay. Let's see. Did I ask what your mom's character was?
Oh, she was very nice, very gentle, very fragile, really.
Really? Did your parents show a lot of affection? Did your mom show a lot of affection?
Yes, more so than my dad.
More so than that. Were you real close to your mom?
Well, yeah.
What kind of work did she do?
Housework.
Housework. How many children did she have?
6.
6 children?
Yes. You know, she passed away. I was only 12 years old when she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's quite a story behind that. Still makes me shiver just to think about it, you know. There were 4 of us boys, and then she was expecting a baby. And then in February of 36, and it was about 30 below and 50-mile-an-hour wind, and the snow was knee-deep when she went into labor. And there was twins.
Really?
Who were born that night. And they were way too early. And the 2 twins only weighed 5 pounds between the 2 of them.
Oh my goodness.
In fact, we still kid the guys that they first had a baby. They put them in shoe boxes, each one, and put them in the oven of the stove to keep them warm.
Really?
In fact, they thought the one of them was dead. They laid it to the side, and then the other one come. Finally, they uncovered it, and no, he's moving. And it's just, it's so amazing that, to me, nowadays, you know, a premature baby, you know, at 2.5 pounds or so, stays in a hospital in an incubator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here they were out there, and our house wasn't a wood house. It was made out of adobe, if you know what that is.
Adobe.
Clay.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the most modern house. At that time, it was, even there was a lot more modern houses than what we had. So our house was really a big old cold house. Even though we had good stoves and we kept warm, but for little babies, you know,
Yeah.
weighing 2.5 pounds. And, well, I might as well tell you the rest of the story. You know, the babies were way too early.
Okay.
And usually, like us children, they had a midwife.
Mm-hmm.
But the weather was so bad, there was no way they could get to where the midwife was, or bring her in. Well, there was a doctor in Gackle. Well, they called him. He tried it. He took 3 other men along. They got 2 miles out of Gackle. That's as far as they could get because there was too much snow. Roads were blocked. So anyhow, when the first baby come, why, they didn't know they were going to have twins. They thought that, and then our mother got up.
She got.
Dad tells me. And then, well, then the other baby come, and then she started hemorrhaging. She lost, you know, so much blood. She was so weak that she did live for what, 8 days, I think it was, and then she got pneumonia and died. She died real fast.
Huh.
So then there was 2 little babies that were 2.5 pounds to take care of. So if you don't think that was a problem.
Oh.
No
No
woman
mom.
in the house.
Because there was just the 4 boys.
Just the 4 boys, and I was the oldest. I was 12.
Oh my goodness.
The youngest one was 3. So it was nerve-wracking, or I mean, it was sad, very sad.
Where were the boys when your mom was having the twins? Where were you guys at? Since
In the other room.
in the other room.
Yeah, she was in the bedroom.
So did your dad then had to deliver the?
Yes. And then, well, he, you know, what do you do when 2 little babies are there? And she was so weak that she couldn't help herself after hemorrhaging so bad.
Yeah.
They did call the neighbor lady, which lived 1.5 miles. She was a very, very gentle, very good person. So we had a hired man. We hitched up a team of horses on the sled. He called. We had a telephone. We could call, and my dad called her at 3 o'clock in the morning. So the hired man went out, hitched the horses to the sled, and went and brought this lady in to help.
Okay.
You know, but there was, well, she could take care of the little babies, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they fed them with eye droppers.
Really?
Really, yeah. Huh. That's what they tell me.
Huh.
I can remember the babies, but that feeding with the eye droppers, I can't remember. That's what they said.
So what was it like having 2 little babies around?
Well, I don't know exactly. I can't remember much of that because then 8 days later or 7 days later, my mother passed away. And then my grandparents on my mother's side took one of the twins.
Okay.
And my aunt took the other one.
From the dad's side.
Oh,
From
okay.
my dad's side, yeah.
And they raised them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the twins never did ever, well, he come home to visit, but otherwise that he lived with us, he didn't, but the other twin that went to the grandparents when the grandparents couldn't take care of him. When my grandmother died and then my grandpa had to go to a nursing home, while then the other, he was 14 or 15, I think. He come home then and stayed
Okay.
home.
Okay. What was it like? What was your mother's funeral like?
That is something I just often wondered myself. It was so cold. We have a picture of where the people are all gathered, but
Of the funeral picture she saw.
oh,
Yeah, she said.
but otherwise I just can't remember. I mean, I just.
How old was your mother when she passed away?
Well, she was 1936 and she was born in 1902.
So 34.
34.
And where's she buried at?
Down that cemetery, you said you come by.
Oh yeah, that one right down there. Okay.
There used to be a church. That used to be our church there. You go to church.
Oh, okay. Did your father remarry?
Yes, 4 months later.
4 months later. Okay. And who did he remarry to?
That lady right there in that picture, Martha Miller was her name.
Martha Miller. And how did he meet her? Do you know, or?
Through a matchmaker.
Through a matchmaker.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have heard of them. I have. Yep.
There was well, in fact, he was my uncle.
Oh, your uncle was a matchmaker.
Yeah, he lived in town and he knew this woman. And, well, my dad, you know, even though the twins were gone, there were still 4 boys, the youngest one.
3.
So he had hired girls. We had 4 different hired girls, one each month.
Okay.
For the 4 months. And then, well, when she was ready, she had other obligations, or she wanted to leave. Well, now what do I do? You know, so he went, I mean, I don't know, was in town, and then my uncle somehow had gotten in touch with this woman and told him. So they got together.
Huh. And how long were they married for?
How long they were married?
Yeah.
Well, they were married until he died.
He died.
56.
So.
And that was in 30, they got married in, what was it?
In 36.
In June,
So,
I think, or July, June. Yeah, my mother died in February.
And they got married 4 months later.
Yeah,
so about 20 years then.
they were married.
And then she just recently passed away. So.
Just last Thursday we had the funeral.
Thinking back before your dad remarried, thinking back to your mom and your dad, what was their relationship like? Did they have a good marriage?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
As far as I know, yeah.
Were they also arranged by a matchmaker or by their parents, or did they?
I don't know how.
You don't know?
Don't know, I never. No, I'm sure it wasn't a matchmaker.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. What did you think about your dad remarrying when you were 12? What, did you like her?
He wasn't happy.
No, we weren't happy, and the biggest disappointment was when Dad said he was going to get married. We thought he was going to bring a woman in like our mother was, and it was just the opposite.
Okay.
Just completely.
What was Martha like?
She was honored, tough.
Kind of had this.
And I can now, as you look back, I can see where she wasn't used to children. She grew up. She just had one brother at home.
Oh.
They were 3. She had 3 brothers, but one brother was at home living with their parents and her.
Okay.
They had a big house, a nice, almost a new house. And she was 28 years old, I think, when she came. And she pretty well, done what she wanted to. Now she comes into this old house, you could say, with 4 kids.
As a 12-year-old, how old were they? 12?
12, 9, 6, and
3.
3. Just imagine, put yourself in them shoes.
Oh, those, yeah.
And her mother done all the cooking and taking care of the house. She helped her brother out on the farm.
So she
working
didn't
in
know.
the fields and all that. So she wasn't used to cooking for a big family, so it was tough, and no modern, like
Conveniences.
yeah. Right.
Yeah. Everything by hand.
Washing clothes almost every day for the kids and cooking, and we worked all day, even though we were young, but we still wanted to eat and had to cook a lot of food. So it was tough.
When you were young, what did you think about your dad sending your the twins? Are they boys or are they girls? Boys. Sending your younger brothers to live with your grandparents and your aunt. Did you get to see them often, or?
No, one of them we did.
Okay.
The one living with my aunt, we seen almost every Sunday if we went to church. They went to the same church, but the other one that lived with my grandparents, we didn't see there at all.
Okay. What was that like for you, having brothers that lived out of the home that were younger? Didn't seem just life.
we really didn't associate that as our brother, I guess. I mean, he just belonged to that family
because they were so little when they
left.
Yeah.
In fact, let me just say that they even went by the name of Schlenker and Kinsler for a while.
Oh, okay. So they
didn't go by the name of Kleingartner until afterward when you started school or something like that.
Okay. Was your mother a good cook?
Oh yes, very good.
So she was like your grandmother, very good cook.
Yeah.
Would you say was Martha a good cook? No.
To this day, she wasn't a good cook.
What was your favorite meal that your mom would make you?
Oh God, that I wouldn't even.
Get anything with dough?
Oh yeah. Most anything or everything that she made was good. More so than Martha. There were some things that wasn't good that you didn't enjoy. But you ate because you were hungry.
What was your least favorite food that your mom would make? Was there anything that you just didn't like?
Peas, I still don't like them.
So Lorraine likes peas and you don't like peas?
No, but I was thinking of some of their bread.
Well, yeah, that was Martha's.
Yeah.
It's not my mother's.
Oh, she asked about your mother's. I thought she asked.
We are going to Martha now, though. So what was what was the least favorite thing that Martha would make?
There's a lot of things that wasn't really very good, but the one thing was she wasn't like our mother. Our mother would probably bake bread every other day or so. She'd bake bread once in 2 weeks, but she'd probably bake 15 loaves.
Okay.
There was many a day we'd eat moldy bread. So that was one thing. Of course, after one of her sons, or Eddie, got older, a lot of that bread the pigs would go into wherever she had it, in the place where she'd eat she'd bake new bread, but we didn't dare to eat the new bread until the old bread was gone. Eddie, my brother, half-brother, he'd get rid of some.
The older stuff.
Gave it to the pigs, so that whatever.
How about what was a good meal that Martha cooked? Was there anything that you liked that she cooked?
Oh, yes, there were things that were good. I mean, she made, they had a good recipe of, she canned Swiss steak.
Hmm.
And they put all kinds of like peppers and vegetables in with it. And then you'd have that, she'd open that jar and she'd heat it up. That was baked in the jar, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards they'd open it up and we'd have mashed potatoes and that gravy. Oh, that was real good. And that meat was so tender. That was really good. And she canned a lot of that. Made Swiss steak.
So did Martha and your mother do a lot of canning? Both of them do a lot of canning.
Yes, we had a lot of. They had to because there was no cold storage.
Yeah. Let's see here. How would you describe Martha? You've said that she was a stern person, more of a stern person. What else about her character?
Oh, nothing besides she was stern. But must say she took care of us. I mean, washed our clothes and all that. But that she ever said, like our mother, my real mother used to say, "I love you," so Martha never ever said anything like that.
So your birth mother was more affectionate.
Oh yes.
Okay. How many children did Martha have with your father? Four. And how long after they were married did they start to have children? So you have 12, 9, 6, 3, and then babies, and then when was the next?
He was born in 38.
Yeah.
38.
That's the first one.
So 2 years after they got married. Okay. Who would you say was the one that was more strict in your family, Martha or your dad?
Oh, my dad.
Your dad. He was the one that laid the law down. Do you remember any of the rules that you grew up with as a child? Did you have any rules that you had to abide by in your house?
Yourself work when there was work to do.
Thinking back to your mom and your dad, what was their relationship like? Do you remember how they were as a couple?
Oh, they had a good relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Martha and your dad?
That was pretty rocky sometimes, I'll tell you.
Different.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say was the best thing about your mom and dad's relationship with each other?
I couldn't tell you.
How about your dad and Martha's?
Well, I don't think they had any good things.
Let's see here. When your parents weren't working or Martha wasn't working, what types of things would they do to pass the time?
Well, I don't know, Martha.
She was always working.
Yeah, she was always working till late hours of the night. She'd be washing clothes or mending, a lot of mending.
A lot of mending.
All that kind of things there. But nothing really that was would be an exciting thing.
What about your father? If he wasn't out in the fields or.
Well, he'd read a lot. He was
Okay.
He'd read German books. He'd read newspapers. He got a daily paper.
Was it a.
Read the Bible every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it a German newspaper that he would get or both?
Yeah, German and English.
Do you remember what newspapers they were?
Well, the German was it was called the Dakota, it'd be called the Dakota Free Press.
The one that was published out of Minnesota?
No, I think it was called.
Was it published in here? Was it published? Okay, okay.
Maybe it was in Minnesota.
Well, there was a free press that was published over there.
He did get the Fargo Farm.
The Fargo Forum. Okay. Okay.
And the Kirkefolder.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a church paper that he got, but that only come
I think once a month.
Then we had all kinds of magazines. We did like Successful Farmer, Dakota Farmer, and all
Okay. Okay.
And I suppose Martha looked at them too.
that. Oh yeah, she read them.
Do you remember in the household, did your family speak primarily German, or did they speak English or
Oh, in the house we usually spoke German.
German? Looking back, since you're the oldest of your brothers and sisters, do you remember, besides the twins, do you remember any of the other births?
No.
The children's births, just the twins? Let's see here. How did you get along with your, well, actually, first, tell me your brothers and sisters' names. Who do we got? We've got you, and then,
Irvin was next.
okay, Irvin,
Gordon,
Gordon,
and Elvin.
Elvin,
And then the twins were Norbert and Norman.
okay,
And then my half-brothers were Melvin and Edwin and Lillian and Helen.
So there's-
Helen and Lillian. That's
Helen. So 10 children in the family. 10 children. How did you get along with 9 siblings?
no problem. There was never no problem. Everybody had this thing to do, and of course, by the time like Lily come along, that was in '44. Then I went to service. I wasn't home. When I come home, I got married and I left home. And before that, well, there was a lot of times I'd be working somewhere else besides the farm after the other boys got older.
Mhm.
When I was in 42, 43, and part of 44, I was driving truck, and then I worked for a cattle feeder, and when, there was only so much work, and then there were all the other boys, they were old enough to help, so we didn't really need that many at home, so whenever we had a chance to earn a little money, why, we took it.
Yeah. Was there any competition between you and your brothers? Like, no?
Not really, not ever, but
Still isn't.
no, there still isn't.
Okay.
Very well.
Was there a brother or well, I'm assuming since your sisters were so much younger, was there a brother that you were closest to when you were growing up?
Well, Irvin, my the next oldest one, we were about as close, but that was about it.
Okay.
Otherwise, we were all about the same.
Okay. What types of things would you and Irvin do when you weren't out on the farm working?
Gosh, I don't know. I can't remember.
Did you guys ever get into any mischief?
No, not really. That's
Okay.
one thing we never, because like I say, our dad was pretty darn strict, and if he'd have found out,
You'd want to be somewhere else?
you bet.
Well, you did get together with the Finn neighbors sometimes.
Oh yeah, we'd go visiting. We had neighbors that were half a mile from our house.
Okay.
But they were Finnish people,
Okay.
and we'd walk over there in the summertime, because these people, they had a grandson that lived at Frederick, had a daughter that lived at Frederick, South Dakota. And she was married, and she had children, and her son would come to see his grandparents, and that boy was my age.
Okay.
So we got together from when I was probably, well, like when I started school, there were kids that couldn't talk English, but I could talk English as good when I started school as I can now, because we were together with these
So you had to speak.
They couldn't speak German and we couldn't speak Finn, so and they do English, and so I learned English real quick.
Okay. That gave you kind of an advantage starting school.
Yeah, I did have an advantage over a lot of them. But yeah, we'd be together every day. For in the evening after we were done work, if we could get away a little early, we'd get together and play ball or something like that. But,
What type of ball would you play?
baseball.
Baseball.
Or softball maybe too.
You've talked a little bit about the family home. Can you describe it a little bit more? What was the house you grew up in? What did that look like?
Well, it looked nice. I mean, but it was made out of clay bricks. You know, I don't know if you know.
Yep.
But it was covered with wood.
Okay, so it had a wood outside
Yeah.
to it. Okay.
And inside too. I mean, so it was all covered. You know.
So you couldn't see the. Oh, okay.
All the clay, but it had walls about 2 feet thick,
Oh, okay.
maybe a little more.
How many rooms were in the home?
3.
3. So you,
Plus an entry and a pantry. Well, it was a big kitchen.
okay.
It was big. And then the front room was big too, because that's where the folks slept too. And then we had a big bedroom, and there were 2 beds where the 4 boys slept.
Quick side note though, that's great that she had the opportunity to say goodbye to you. That probably meant the world to her.
I still remember the very words she said that night.
What did she say?
I don't know.
We'll say it in German.
Yeah, you can say it in German. That's fine. I mean, I may not understand it all, but.
Meine liebe Kinder. You know,
Mhm.
I love my children, I think you would say. That's the last words I remember my mother saying.
That's great. And like, I'm just gonna restate for the video what we were talking about since it was off. But you were saying that you were able to sit on your bed, and your mom was able to say goodbye to you before she passed away. And that's great. That probably meant the world not only to you guys but to her before she passed away.
I always remember that she said that.
I guess if you had to think about any way to go, that'd be a good way to go, to be able to say goodbye to the people you love.
But
So.
she had pneumonia, and it just went so quick.
Well, she also got to see the twins then too before she passed away. So she got to see her children, her 6 boys. Well, that's good. Yeah. And the twins actually, for being 2 pounds 5 ounces, they grew up to be healthy kids, no problems, and.
Not really. No.
That's
Not any
just.
more than the rest of you have. They've all got health problems, really, but.
One of the boys only had 1 kidney.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he still.
Yeah, it's 1 kidney. Yeah. Not much to remedy that situation. Well, you had mentioned, before we go back to your family house, but you had mentioned briefly that your dad had been quite ill throughout your childhood. What was he ill with? Did he have a...
Well, for one thing, he had a bad stomach.
Okay.
Stomach ulcers. And then I suppose he was big and strong. I think he overdone a lot in work.
Pushed himself too hard.
Yeah, he pushed himself hard. Then, of course, after her mother died, then it was really hard on him.
Okay.
He had a lot of nerve problems.
Okay. Before your mom had the twins, was she a pretty healthy woman?
Oh, yeah.
Too? She.
Yes, as far as I know.
Yeah, she just seemed to be. So it was just childbirth that kind of. Okay. Your family house. You just said it had 3 rooms in it, and that all the boys slept in 1 room, and that then your dad and your mom slept in the living area. How many beds were in the boys' room? 2 beds, so 2 per bed. What did Martha, when your dad married Martha, did she move into this home, or did you guys move to a different home? Okay. When there were more kids, where did they end up sleeping? when they had their kids?
Well, after Melvin was born, see, in '39, my dad bought another farm. And
Okay.
there was a big house there. So then we moved that house to the farm,
Oh, okay.
and that had one, two, four, had about 6 rooms. There's what, 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms downstairs. One
So it had a bathroom,
had a bathroom, and so then
a large entry.
it had a large entry, and that's where we moved. Then moved out of that other house.
Okay. When you were in your first house, and how was it warm? Was it pretty warm in the bedrooms, or was it rather cold?
Yeah, if you kept the stoves going pretty good,
Okay.
But they had the feather ticks or whatever you call them.
Feather ticks, yeah.
So you could really.
Plus two per bed that has body heat. What was the furniture like in your house? What type of furniture did you have?
Well, I don't know. Kitchen chairs and the kitchen table, and we didn't have a dining room, so everything was in the kitchen.
Okay.
And then in the front room, well, they had an easy chair and other chairs, but I mean nothing really fancy or anything.
Necessities. Just the necessities.
Yeah.
Okay.
In our bedroom where the boys slept, there was no closet. They had one of these big square, I don't know what they called them then, where you hung your clothes in.
Like a.
It wasn't a cupboard, but
I know what you're talking about, and there's a word that I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. I know what.
that's what we had
Okay.
in our bedroom where we hung our clothes. That was.
Okay. Did your mom make your clothes for you, or would you order them from a catalog or get them at a store?
Usually bought them in town.
Bought them in town. Okay. Did you have any nicknames in your family?
Well,
No.
not too many, but we still got one that's got a nickname Mel, but they still call him Pete. He was Pete.
Pete.
Pete. He's still Pete.
How did he get the?
Because of his grandpa.
He was nicknamed Pete because of his grandpa.
What Posey?
Oh yeah, Norbert, one of the twins was called Posey. I don't know why he ever was called that. But he lost that a long time ago. So
Besides your mother and then Martha, who helped with the cooking, cleaning, and washing around the house? Would it just be them, or did the brothers? Them. Okay.
well, us boys would have to help. We had one of them overtime washing machines that
Had to
you
pull.
had to do that kind of work or help carry water in. You had to carry the water in, he didn't carry it back out to the wash house,
Okay.
put it in the washing machine, but as far as actually washing, so they did the work.
Okay. Did your mother and or Martha have a nice garden outside?
Oh yeah, they always had a big garden. We
Did-
had to help pull sometimes if we had time.
Okay.
And then later on, the younger ones had to help.
Let's see. Did your family ever go on an outing anywhere, like she had talked about going fishing, anything like that? Did you go to church as a child?
Oh yeah,
Was it every Sunday type of thing, or?
like Lorraine said, we had a 5-church parish, and there was the minister to be there every 5th Sunday. And in the winter time, you'd have to go with the horses. So if the minister could get there on the fifth Sunday we probably go, and then the rest of the Sundays probably, if the weather was halfway decent, we'd go. The deacon would take over, but in summertime we went practically every Sunday.
Okay. Do you remember what church you attended?
Yeah, the Congregational Church over there where that cemetery is.
Okay. Let's see. What was confirmation like for you? What was...
I enjoyed it because I got away from home.
I got away from work.
Of course, we went in the morning. There was five different families that had kids going. So, and I think we went for 4 or 5 weeks, at least every other day or every day. One of the fathers would haul us in, pick us all up and haul us in, and the next day the next father would. So we'd have to be at home for work in the evening, but during the day at least, get to know different kids. And there was kids from Juddon, from Streeter, and Alfred, and Gackle.
And how long did your confirmation last? You said it lasted about 4 weeks?
I think it was 4 weeks.
Okay. Was the pastor strict, or was he?
Yeah, he was strict.
He was a strict
But
guy.
we knew him real well because he was the pastor for our mother's funeral, and he'd come out, and see
Okay.
when she was sick.
So you knew him from
So we
earlier.
knew him real well.
Okay. What was confirmation day like for you? What was the process? Did you have to have something memorized, or yeah?
Had to memorize. He told us what, and then we had to memorize it. And we had to sing. Well, in the forenoon we didn't have much to do, but in the afternoon it was more the confirmation class. In the forenoon, the minister and the congregation, they sang a bunch of songs, and the minister had a sermon, and in the afternoon in the confirmation.
Okay.
Coming in, and we had to recite whatever he told us to, and we sang some songs.
How old were you when you went through confirmation?
I suppose around 14.
Okay. Did your family have a celebration for you afterwards? No. Okay. Was Sunday supper different from other days of the week in your family?
Not the supper, the dinner usually.
The dinner was?
Had to have chicken noodle soup.
Chicken noodle soup?
Pretty well. Chicken noodle soup was Sunday dinner.
Okay. How far was this church from your house?
1.5 miles.
Okay.
No, 2.5 miles, yeah.
And were the church services in German, or was confirmation also in German, or? Yeah.
For me it was. We had a big class, and some of them couldn't speak German, so they had English and German. And I wanted to be English, but my dad says, no, you gotta go in German. So I was German, but I'd rather confirm English.
So when you were raised, could you also read German language?
Rented, oh yes.
Okay. Okay.
But now it's pretty tough. German.
Kind of the lose it when you don't use it type of thing. Oh, my pictures, okay. Growing up, what was your favorite holiday?
Gosh, Christmas, I would think.
What did your family do for Christmas?
Well, not a heck of a lot, except, well, we'd have a Christmas program in church, and then go and get, supposed to the boys, we'd get a gift or so.
Was there a Christmas tree in the house?
No.
No Christmas tree. And what was a typical gift that you would get for a Christmas if you got a gift?
One year I know we got some skis.
Really?
Yeah. That was probably the most exciting because I like skiing. I still do if I could only ski. But
Yes, skiing is a fun sport.
this Finnish neighbor we had, he made it.
Really? Oh.
He made the skis.
Huh.
Made regular skis. He made them for a lot of people. And my dad had him make some skis. That was probably the most exciting gift that I got, was the skis. Then we go out and we had a sled already, so we go skiing. I love skiing.
Was the Christmas Eve dinner or supper, or Christmas Eve, Christmas dinner or supper different than a traditional dinner? Would you have special food?
Not really. Not really.
Would you celebrate it with extended family or just your immediate family?
Just immediate.
Just the immediate family.
Because usually the roads were bad, and we never.
Did you do anything special for Christmas Eve?
We usually had a Christmas program in church.
What was it? What was that like? What would you do for a Christmas program?
Oh, they'd sing. Well, they probably had some kind of a dialogue.
Okay.
And sing Christmas songs. The young kids would recite certain verses.
So you had to get up there when you were a kid and recite something. Was it ever scary for you getting up and speaking in front of the people?
Still is.
Me too. What about Easter? Did your family celebrate Easter?
Not really. I mean, nothing special.
Okay.
Just another Sunday and
Sunday church.
go to church.
Didn't have Easter eggs.
Maybe they died Easter eggs.
I think so.
What about 4th of July? What would your family do for 4th of July?
If it's a celebration in Gacko, we'd go, but that's about the only place.
Okay. What types of things would, when you went to Gacko, what types of things would there be to do for 4th of July?
They'd have a parade, and we'd probably get a little money. We'd buy firecrackers, and if we have enough money, we'd buy ourselves a hot dog. I like a hot dog, you know.
Hot dog, yeah. My favorite is going to like a baseball game and getting a hot dog.
But otherwise, well, once in a while they'd have a horse race. Well, then you go to the horse race. It's kind of exciting. And they have a kids foot race, you know,
Okay.
three-legged race. They call them sack race. But I never joined them.
Never played in them, just watched.
Just watch, yeah.
Let's see. How about birthdays? Did your family celebrate birthdays?
Not really.
Okay. What about any like communal butchering parties or sausage making parties where they would have people over to do that? And no. Okay. You described the home that you grew up in, but what was the farm like? If you think about where the house was, what other buildings were on the farm?
Well, the later years, it was a big farm. It had silo, and it had 3 barns and granaries. But when I was real young, we only had 2 barns, and we didn't have the silo. But after Dad bought more land and got more animals, and our farm was big.
How much land did your dad own when you were growing up?
10 quarters. Whatever that adds
It's
up
up
to.
to a lot.
2.5 sections.
Oh my goodness. How far from town was the farm?
11 miles.
11 miles. How often did you guys get to town then?
Very, very little.
Very little.
Yeah. In the summertime, probably they'd go in Saturday night and take the cream in and buy groceries, and then we'd get to go along.
What would you do when you get to go to town? Would you get to do anything?
Walk around and look at it. Visit, yeah. Well, later years, yeah, but when we were kids, we'd run around town. We'd have the band playing out, and they had a kind of a bandstand I
Oh.
recorded that and listened to him play.
Huh. Did anybody in your family play a musical instrument? No. So it was kind of a treat to get to hear the band playing then. How did your dad start gain his get the initial part of his land? Did he buy that land, or did he inherit it, or?
I think, my grandfather homesteaded the farm,
Okay.
and that was handed down to, the homestead was handed down to my father.
Okay.
And after that, whatever he had, well, my grandfather bought a quarter of land for her, and my dad, that was right there too.
Okay.
So they got that, and then the rest he just bought.
He just added on to it. Okay. You talked about having sheep and cows and pigs. Did your parents butcher those animals for food for the family, or what were they used for primarily?
Well, primarily, they probably butcher one pig and one beef in the fall of the year, but the rest were all sold for.
Okay.
And then, of course, the milk house, milk.
Yeah. What about the sheep? What would you do with? They were sold. Okay.
The wool and the sheep were sheared and the wool was sold.
What were the roads like out to your farm? How would you? Poor. Lot different from today's. Let's see. What type of farming equipment did your dad have when you were growing up?
Well, about everything a farmer needed: a plow, a drill, and a binder, and whatever, a harrow, and whatever you needed to farm. So we had that.
Did he purchase all the equipment himself? So okay. So your father seems like he did pretty well then with farming.
Oh yes, he did.
Well, those first ones were all pretty well horse-drawn, weren't they?
Well, yeah, but later, right, when the tractors come out, bought tractors.
What was it like? Do you remember what it was like getting the first tractor out on the farm?
Yeah,
Oh.
kind of neat. Didn't have to harness horses, and you go out there, start the tractor, and away you go.
Being the oldest, I guess you probably got to use it more than the.
Yeah. Well, we usually, right away to begin with, we had 2, and then we had 3.
Okay.
Went on down the line.
So
Different than it is nowadays. Like Alan here, he's got 8 tractors on the yard. So. In days you were glad if you had one, but we had 2 right away too.
That's great. So what were the fields? If you think back, what were the fields like that your dad had? What types of fields did he have?
Well, they were the same as they are now.
Same.
Really. Yeah.
So the wheat and.
Yeah. Oh, what kind of grain?
Yeah, great. Sorry, crops. I said fields.
Wheat and barley and corn. Of course, now they raise sunflowers and beans.
Okay.
Too, which we didn't in them years. It was mostly wheat, barley, and corn, and oats.
Okay.
Some flax.
Oh, okay. Do you know who taught your father how to be a farmer?
Well, I suppose he started with my grandfather. I suppose he was the one that he farmed there until, I don't know, they come in 1901 or 2 when they come here. He moved to town, I think in 16, so, no, it was later, 18, I think is when they moved to town.
One of the terms that gets thrown around a lot is the dirty 30s. What was it like growing up in the dirty 30s?
There was just nothing.
Did you ever?
No feed or no. But we were very fortunate. We were one of the few. We owned this land right across the road where all this water is.
Oh yeah.
And there was no water.
Really?
This grass is high.
Really?
So we come and we made a lot of hay in here, and what Dad didn't need there, everybody needed hay, and he could sell. So he was lucky in that way that he could sell. But as far as price of anything was, like cattle was sold cast for $8 a piece.
So then, what was your dad able to keep food on the table pretty
Oh yeah.
good for you guys? And so he did okay during that time, not
Yes.
okay.
It was tough. There was probably things that we would have liked to have that we didn't have, but I mean, it wasn't that we had to go hungry or anything
Okay.
like that.
Okay. So just giving up kind of the extras that you. Did you ever witness like a dust storm or anything like that with the Dirty 30? What were those like?
They were bad. You couldn't see nothing. That was just, our mother would wet, put towels in water and lay them on the windowsill so the dirt couldn't come in. That fine dust would come in just everywhere. Get into your beds and all over.
Bet she had a hard time keeping the house clean.
Oh, yeah. It was impossible. It just, you couldn't see nothing. It was just like a snowstorm. Big piles of dirt that flew up against the buildings.
Looking at health care, when you were a kid, do you remember anybody besides your mom that was seriously ill or hurt as a child?
No. I had one brother fell off the soft side, broke his arm, but that's about all I.
Oh, what'd they do with his broken arm?
We took him to a quack doctor, and he said it, and it got all right.
To a quack doctor?
You heard of a quack doctor? Well, there's these self-made people, that can do certain things,
Set bones and stuff like
bones
that.
and stuff.
Oh.
And there's a fellow, he lived in Wishick. His name was Chris Doctor. That's where they took him. Well, everybody went there that had broken bones, and he said, but he never was a real doctor.
He just set bones and.
He just called him a quack.
Huh. I've never heard that before.
I thought everybody knew what quack.
Let's see. Do you recall any home remedies that your mom or Martha would have when you guys would get sick or ill? Was there anything that they would do to make a stomach ache go away or a headache go away?
I don't know. Remember.
Tomato tea.
Camillity, yeah. That they used. If you ever heard of that?
Yep.
Camillity.
Yeah, my mom actually still thinks highly of that.
My mother used to make tea out of vermouth, if you know what that is.
No.
Wormwood.
Really?
And that
Stinkweed.
is a terrible stinkweed.
Stinkweed, yeah.
And for her arthritis, she'd drink that.
Huh. I've never heard of anybody doing that, no.
Actually, I don't know. For colds or for anything like that, that we ever had a special remedy
Okay.
or a special medicine.
Do you know where the closest doctor was to your house?
Well, there was one in Gackle. Oh. The Northern Pacific Railroad went through Gackle, and they had a doctor station.
Did anybody in your family ever have to go see him?
I did. I had pneumonia one time. Well, no, he come out to the farm, and I guess some of the rest of the family probably went there. And then, of course, when our mother died, there was a different doctor here in town at that time. He originally come from Cullum or Edgeley. Dr. Ferguson was his name. He was here in Gackle, but this other doctor, he was a good doctor when he was sober, but he liked his booze.
Right.
But Dr. Ferguson was here.
You went into World War II. You served in World War II. How did that come about? Were you drafted?
Yeah.
You were drafted. What year were you drafted?
In 44.
44. How old were you then?
22, 21, 22.
Where were you stationed? Where were you sent immediately?
Well, I was in different parts, but I ended up in the Pacific on Okinawa is where I spent 16 months.
What part of were you in the army? The army branch, the branch of the army. Okay. What was it like overseas at that time?
Well, at that time, at first it was real tough, right? Everything was destroyed, but as time went on, after the war ended, why, we built up and it was all right. I mean, it was just like any other army camp.
How would you describe your experience in the army?
Well, I always said I wouldn't do it again for $1 million, but I wouldn't sell it for $1 million.
So a good experience, but not a great experience. Something that you.
It was a good experience, but I wouldn't want to go through it again.
The once in a lifetime type of thing.
One of well, I'm not going to talk about the actual fighting or anything like that, but one of the things that they had, we got into that one of those big typhoons that they had.
Really?
Where it just blew everything away. Our planes, we had to anchor down, stake them down, and then it ripped out the stake. Well, it got so that we had no place to go, so we went up in the hills where they buried their dead. The natives, the Okies, buried their dead in tombs. And it had an opening about this big. But it was big inside, like I suppose each community or each bunch of people had their cemetery, and each had one of these.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty big. Well, that's where we crawled into, and we were in there 12 hours.
Oh my goodness.
To get out of the weather, because there was just no place to go, because the rain was coming down, and the wind, our barometer, or the wind barometer went to 160 miles an hour, and that
was as far as it could go.
Yeah. And all our tents, we lived in tents at the time, so they blew all them away. But that was one of to me it wasn't so frightening, but it was just one of those that you didn't have no place to go. And
Yeah.
There were actually dead people in there.
yeah, there were a lot of people in that place. They had a deal.
Were they in coffins or were they?
These bodies, they had risers in there just around, and they laid these people on these risers.
Just the bodies.
The bodies, yeah. And they laid there for 7 years, and then they said, then a member of the family would go in there and dismember this body, and they had, I don't know if I got pictures of them. I should have dug them out. It's Chores, where they put these bones in, and they set these on these risers.
Oh my goodness. And they're just it. Oh.
That's where we spent 12 hours in one of them.
That'd have to be kind of eerie.
Well, it was in a way, but it was, at least we got out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But one nice thing about it, it was about 80 degrees, outside.
Mm-hmm.
So even, if you got soaking wet, it wasn't that you were freezing or anything.
They're still warm and, okay.
But you didn't have no food or nothing.
That was my next question. I was like, what did you do for food or anything? But
well, some of us had some candy bars and stuff like that, but there was 12 of us that were in this place, and I don't know how many dead bodies in there. So you didn't really feel like eating either.
yeah, that's, yeah. So you were drafted relatively later
Yes.
on
yes.
in the war. So were you one of the last to be drafted, or?
No, there were some after me, I guess. And we left the States and the war ended. Well, we were just got over to Okinawa and the war ended.
Okay.
But as we were in the 25th Infantry, and the 25th Infantry was going to make a big push into Japan in September, and that's where they were going to attack Tokyo.
Okay.
And that's where we were headed for. Of course, then the war ended. Then they didn't make that push or that invasion. So they left us in Okinawa and we had to rebuild what was destroyed.
So when you got to Okinawa, was there still a lot of conflict going on at that
There
time,
was some,
or?
but not too bad.
So it wasn't.
In fact, we got there in August. We got there just, I don't know, was it the day before or the day after they bombed Hiroshima.
Oh.
Then, of course, the war ended and everybody said, oh, now we're going home. Well, we didn't go home for 16 months. But in the 16th of May, we captured the last Japs on Okinawa.
Okay.
They were hidden in caves.
Did any of your other brothers have to? Were any of your other brothers drafted? Your younger brothers?
Yeah, Gordon he was in the Korean War.
Okay.
He was drafted, and then I had two other brothers that were in the service, but they weren't drafted.
Okay. Which war did they serve in any war?
Eddie went to Germany, and Norbert never went overseas.
Okay.
But Gordon, he was in real actual combat in Okinawa. I mean,
In Germany.
Korea,
All right.
the North Korea and South Korea.
Okay.
But going over we had was quite an experience on the ship. There was, excuse me, there were 6,000 soldiers and 2,500 sailors on one ship. So you imagine 6,000 soldiers trying to get to a mess hall.
Oh my gosh.
And we were on that ship 36 days.
Did they have to have like shifts, eating shifts?
Oh, we only ate, yeah, they ate.
So besides Okinawan, did you get to see any other places while you were?
Well, there were some other islands we stopped on the way over. The Marianas, and there was one of them I think is no more, Anahuac, where they tested the atomic bomb.
Oh.
Later.
Okay.
And they said that is no more. They destroyed that. And that's where they lost 1,200 Marines, and it was only a couple of acres, or not even that much. It's real small. We stopped on those islands because they had to get the men off of the ship.
Okay.
Because, get 5,000 people, they needed little. We slept 11 high.
11 high. Oh my goodness.
Down in the hole, which in probably 100-degree temperature. So, and during the night, because the war was on, we didn't dare to go up on deck.
So.
Because somebody would probably light a cigarette or something, and everything was blacked out.
Oh.
So, then they stopped at these islands, and they had two ships, with each had 6,000 soldiers, and these 12,000 soldiers, they were with the 25th Infantry. We were going in to replace some of these men that had been fighting.
In the combat for a longer time. Okay.
And I still say, if it wouldn't have been for Truman, hard telling if I'd be here, because if Truman wouldn't have decided to drop the atomic bomb, we would have gone into Tokyo. And they were well prepared there. We'd have come in off of that ocean, right into the harbor there, and they were sitting there just waiting for us.
Yeah, you got lucky that you didn't have. Got lucky that you didn't have to go in and do.
If you ever seen the picture, a movie of when they went into Normandy, how they went out, and that's the
Mhm.
same thing would have happened there. Of course, he decided to drop the bomb, and then, of course, that ended the war.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I don't know, maybe you read it was in the Fargo Forum here just last week, where there was two chaps that hadn't surrendered yet or hadn't given up.
No.
They just captured them, or no, well, not really captured them, but they come out of hiding.
From all that time ago.
What? One was 85 and one was 83 years.
Oh my goodness.
They were afraid. They knew the war was over, but they were afraid to come out because they figured if they'd go home, they'd be court-martialed for desertion.
Oh my goodness. Huh. Well, I mean, I know that it's a big thing right now. It's the 50th anniversary. So that they're doing a lot of special recognitions for that time. That, Before you were drafted, do you remember how World War II was affecting life in the U.S.?
Oh yes, you couldn't buy nothing. Everything was rationed. You either had to have stamps or, like, if I didn't have a car, but some of these young fellas that had cars, they'd probably get a few stamps. They could probably buy 5 gallons a month or so. So you could only, if you had stamps, you could buy some gas. If you didn't have stamps, you couldn't. You only got so many stamps. Sugar was another item, and there's a lot of things you couldn't buy at all.
How did the rationing of gas affect your dad's farm?
Well, farmers, if you had tractors, you got all the gas you need.
Okay.
Yes, they needed the food.
They needed the food overseas and okay.
So as we farmers were concerned, the rationing didn't affect us as much as the town people or like young fellas that had a car.
The business or the college students that wanted
If you didn't need it, why you didn't.
the people that were using it for luxury versus necessity okay. What was Christmas time like during World War II over here? Was there changes in how your family would celebrate Christmas at all?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Did speaking German at that time affect your relationship with others? What in town or in schools or neighbors or okay. You said one brother served over in Germany during World War II?
No.
Oh,
It was
after World War II. Did him speaking Germany help him while he was over there? Did he or speaking German help him?
In a way, because I had a cousin, and I have a cousin. Well, he's not living anymore, but he was living at that time. That lived in Germany, and he had children. So my brother went to visit him. And,
That's nice.
he could speak German, and
Have you ever
we speak English.
made it to Germany?
No.
Let's see. We'll ask a couple concluding questions here. We're gonna go back a little bit to your childhood. I just had to talk about the World War II for a minute because I don't get the opportunity to speak with many people who have had such experiences. So, going back to your childhood, what was the most stressful experience that you had to live through?
My mother's dead.
What helped you to get through that experience?
I just had to take the bull by the horns.
Just life?
It was. There was nothing special.
When you look back to your mom, and you look at your life now, how would you say she influenced your life?
Well, when you were 12 years old, you didn't think much about it, I guess. You knew things were going to be different, but you didn't realize that they'd be as different as they really were.
What was the scariest thing that you ever experienced?
I don't know. I really didn't have many scary moments. We got into a real bad typhoon going overseas, and they locked us down in the hole because
Yeah.
the waves come up over the top of the ship, so they had to. Well, if you were on deck, you'd probably wash overboard. It wasn't that we were really scared. I mean, we didn't.
I would have been.
But we didn't know how serious the situation
Couldn't
was.
see it because you were underneath.
Yeah. Because there were 27 other ships out there besides ours. We were in a big convoy. There were battleships and aircraft carriers.
Did any of them ever overturn or have problems because of it?
All the way over.
During your childhood, what was the happiest time of your life? Is there something that you just remember as a really fond memory?
From overseas, and we got married, I guess.
When you married?
I mean, it wasn't that in the childhood there was really not that I could say that there was really
You came
special.
you came back in 1946, right? Is that when you came back? And then you married in 1947.
Mm-hmm.
So was it a year later, or was it like just a few months later? I don't know when
I
you.
come home in November, and we got married in
The 1st of May.
Okay. Um. Uh. During your childhood, what was the most adventurous thing that you did? None. And then, why do you think it's important to tell your life story?
I don't know if it's important. I never thought about it, really, to tell you the truth. Never give it a thought.
Are there any other thoughts or observations about your childhood or your experience in World War II that you would like to share with us?
No, not really that I could just think of offhand. Except that, when we got to Okinawa was a resort for the Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the rich people come for their vacations, and like if we go to the Bahamas or something.
Okay.
And after the war, they were done fighting on Okinawa, there was nothing left, not a building. Naha was a city of 15,000 people, and there wasn't a building, not a one building was standing.
Oh my goodness.
That was completely,
Just leveled.
yep. Another big thing was, a lot of the Japanese didn't surrender. We had prisoners. We took some Jap prisoners that we had in prison, but a lot of them didn't surrender. They went over Suicide Cliff.
Oh yeah, the suicide bombers.
They jumped off of that cliff down to the rocks in the ocean. The tide would come in and wash them out to sea. They'd rather than surrender. But as far as after then, when we weren't in the infantry, I got transferred into transportation because I was a truck driver here, and before I went to service. So they started building up Okinawa. And I told Lorraine many times, if we could have afforded it 25 years or 30 years ago, I'd have liked to have gone back to see Okinawa after they built up, because I talked to some people that were over there much later, and they had built up.
To see the differences between what you guys had started and where they're at now. That would be kind of amazing to see.
Another thing I was really always very disappointed this last year really, was with that World War II memorial in Washington, D.C. I was very disappointed in that
Okay.
because we were in Washington, D.C. a number of times early. I'd have liked to seen it. Now that our health is so that we can't travel, and most of the World War II veterans are dead, now they built it.
Now they build it, yep. That's
You
true.
know, we went and seen the Vietnam Memorial, and the Korean, and whatever else, World War One. But I sure like to see the World War II.
Yeah.
And, they never built it until now, and that's one thing I was very disappointed in our government, that they didn't do that earlier.
Well, yeah, it seems kind of odd you have the Korean and the Vietnam, which happened after. In World War II, there's just so much wrapped around it and so much history to it that it would seem that it would be an important one to build right away.
I'd like to have seen that, but now we're not really in shape
To get there.
to travel.
Hmm.
And, you know, there's be a lot of walking in because
Oh, yeah.
I can't walk anymore. In the 80s when we were down there, we were able to get around real good.